What if the mascot you loved as a kid was the thing that S been waiting for you to grow up? I don't even like saying his name out loud anymore. Chuckles. Chuckles, the birthday clown. He was the face of Poppy, S Pizza Palace, back when I was 8. That cheap knockoff pizza place our parents took us to when they couldn't afford the real chain down the road. Chuckles was everywhere, on the napkins, on the cheap cardboard hats, and, of course, in person. A guy in a padded suit with foam hands and a huge head. Painted grin, frozen in a laugh that looked more like a scream. If you stared too long, he terrified me. I never told my mum, though she worked 2 jobs and barely had enough energy to scrape together money for those grimy birthday parties. So I'd pretend to clap and giggle while Chuckles waddled around, handing out stale candy and cold slices. At my 8th birthday party, Chuckles did something he'd never done before. He leaned down while the other kids were distracted by cake. He put his soft foam hand on my shoulder, too tight for foam, too warm for a costume. He whispered in my ear through the mesh mouth slit, "I see you, birthday boy." His breath was rotten, hot, sweet, wet. I felt it sink through my skin. Nobody else noticed. They were too busy singing off-key. Parents half drunk on cheap beer and fried dough. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake picturing that painted grin, wondering what was under it, wondering if the man inside was still in there at all. Years pass. Poppies shut down. The building sat empty on the corner of Elm and Fifth, windows boarded up, sign hanging by a thread. They said rats got in, mold too, or maybe something else. I moved on, grew up, moved out of town, college, dead-end jobs, but Chuckles stayed buried in my mind, waiting. Last year, I went home for the first time in over a decade. Mum was sick, and I was all she had left. Her old house felt smaller than I remembered. Stale air, faint smell of bleach and sadness. One night, after changing her sheets, I found an old photo album buried in a box in the attic. Birthday photos, paper hats, lopsided cakes, and there he was in every single one. Chuckles, always closer to me than I remembered, hand on my shoulder or just behind me, frozen mid. His painted smile looked cracked in the Polaroid light, like it was peeling away. I told myself it was just a costume, a minimum wage teenager inside a sweaty suit. But in every photo, the eyes behind the mesh were black holes, nothing inside. I couldn't sleep that night. The wind rattled the bedroom window like soft fingers. Around 3 a.m., I heard something outside, a squeak like foam against wood. I peeked out the window. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks, but there he was, Chuckles, standing under the streetlight in front of Mum's house. The same faded red nose, the same painted grin, only the paint was peeling in strips like sunburned skin. His head tilted when I looked at him, his gloved hand lifted in a wave. That same foam hand, black at the fingertips. I shut the curtains, told myself it was stress, grief, maybe some neighborhood kid in a thrift store costume. But every night after, he came back. closer each time. First on the sidewalk, then by the gate, then under my window, tapping soft, like he knew how thin the glass was. The last night I saw my mother alive. She woke up coughing. I ran to get her water. When I came back, she was staring at the corner of the room, eyes wide, lips trembling. "It's him," she whispered. "Your birthday boy." She didn't wake up again after that. I buried her 3 days later, alone. No family left, just me, the empty house, and the squeak of foam on my porch steps after midnight. I tried to leave, packed a bag, slammed the door, didn't bother locking it, but my car wouldn't start. Battery dead, wires chewed through by something that left red, sticky streaks under the hood. I called a tow truck, waited inside, lights on knife on the table beside me, like that would help. At 2:47 a.m., the porch light flickered. The doorbell rang. One soft ding, like a clown's nose honking. I peeked through the peephole. Chuckles filled it. Up close, the suit looked rotted. Patches of fur missing. Foam stained a deep brown. The mesh mouth slit, gaped wide, and inside I saw teeth, real teeth. Too many for one knife. He lifted his hand, that floppy foam glove, and pressed it against the door. I heard the wood creak under it. I felt it creak in my chest too. He leaned close, and through the peephole I saw his eyes. Not black holes this time, but wet red, full of tiny squirming things that moved when he blinked. He whispered. I didn't hear it through the door. I heard it in my head. "Birthday boy, open up. I got your slice waiting." I don't remember unlocking the door. I only remember waking up in the basement, tied to a kiddie chair from Poppy's, the kind they strapped you into so you didn't fall while blowing out the candles. Chuckles stood in the corner, too big for the shadows. The painted grin hung loose, flaps of rubber skin drooping down his jaw. Underneath, there was no man, just pink muscle slick with blood, teeth growing in rows like shark fins. He wheeled out a sheet cake, half frozen, scrawled with "Happy Birthday" in red icing, candles burning. 10, just like the party where he first touched my shoulder. He leaned close. I felt that hot, rotten breath. His teeth clacked together in rhythm with my pulse. He whispered, "One more wish, birthday boy." I blacked out before he blew the candles out for me. I woke up in the attic, alone or not. I can't leave this house. Every window shows Chuckles outside, waving, waiting, his foam glove tapping at the glass. Sometimes I hear the doorbell. Sometimes I hear him in the walls, giggling. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel his hand on my shoulder, warm, heavy, sinking deeper than foam should. So if you ever find an old photo from Poppy S., if you see him behind you, too close, burn it. And if he knocks at your door at midnight, don't open it, because Chuckles never forgets his birthday boy. Every mall has its own ghost stories. Ours had a bunny. When I was 15, I got my first job at Willow Creek Mall. Minimum wage, fake cheer, cheap cologne pumped through the air vents to cover up mildew. I ran the register at Jolly Burger, flipping stale fries and pretending not to see the mold behind the soda fountain. We all knew about the bunny, technically. His name was Benny Bunny, a cheap off-brand Easter mascot the mall rolled out for every spring break. He'd hop around handing out flyers for store discounts and posing for pictures with bored kids whose parents needed to kill an hour. But everyone who worked there longer than a season called him the bunny in the food court. And everyone said the same thing. Don't look too close at the suit. Don't be the last one to leave at night if you see him in the food court after closing. The first time I saw him up close, I laughed. The costume looked ancient. Yellowed fur, ears bent at odd angles. The head was huge, cartoon eyes painted on mesh that never lined up right with whoever wore it. The guy inside changed every year. Some teenager desperate for cash. Some old creep with a record. Rumors said the suit never got washed, that it stank of sweat and something else. But to kids, Benny was just fun. Free candy and high-fives. Nobody asked who was inside. Nobody cared. My manager, Carl, was the one who told me the story on my first night closing alone. He said the original Benny Bunny wasn't just a costume. It was the same guy back when the mall opened in the 80s. Carl swore Benny started as a party clown who used to work the parking lot carnivals. Nobody knew his real name, just that he loved kids too much. Too much to let them go home sometimes. Parents whispered about missing kids. The clown vanished before they ever proved anything. Years later, Benny Bunny showed up. Same giggle, same candy in the pockets, same sticky gloves. Carl claimed the mall couldn't fire him because nobody could find the person inside. Nobody ever saw Benny take off the head. Not in the break room. Not in the storage closet. The suit stayed on. And every few years, someone new disappeared. A kid who wandered off while Mum checked out a clearance rack. Carl laughed when he told it, called it an urban legend. But his hands shook when he said not to lock up alone if Benny was still out. I laughed too. Then I did exactly what every minimum wage kid does. Forgot about it until the week before Easter. It was a Friday night, the kind that drags on forever. The food court was dead, sticky with old mop water. I'd just pulled down the gate when I saw him, Benny Bunny, standing by the fountain in the center court. His fur looked wetter than usual, matted, clumped in dark spots under the fluorescent lights. He didn't move, just stared. Or maybe whoever was inside was asleep. I didn't want to find out. I ducked behind the counter, waited until the security guard did his round. When I peeked again, Benny was gone. The next night, same thing, but closer. Right outside Jolly Burger this time. Head tilted sideways, like he was trying to hear my thoughts through the glass. I asked Carl about it the next day. He shrugged, said nobody had clocked out the Benny suit. Nobody knew who'd signed up to wear it this year. I asked where the suit stayed when it wasn't working. He just muttered something about the basement storage and told me not to ask dumb questions if I wanted to keep my hours. I started seeing Benny everywhere. By the pretzel stand, near the arcade. Always still, always turned just enough that the painted eyes caught the light and followed you. I stopped staying late, but one night my ride bailed, and I was stuck waiting for the bus after closing. The security guard was doing his rounds again. Same board wave, same jingle of keys. I asked if he'd seen Benny. He didn't even blink. Ain't no bunny today, kid. Nobody wears it off-season. They don't pay for it. But I saw Benny through the glass doors, standing by the vending machines. One paw lifted, beckoning like a cartoon. I should have run, but something about him pulled at me. Like a bad memory you can't stop scratching. I stepped closer. Up close, the fur reeked. Sweat, mildew, something under it all that smelled like meat left in the sun. The head tilted. The mesh eyes were darker now, glinting wet under the fluorescence. He waved me closer, slow, like his wrist bones creaked inside the fur sleeve. I asked, "Who's in there?" The mouth slit didn't move, but I heard him giggle, soft, squeaky, like a balloon twisting. I swear it came from inside the suit. He turned, walked toward the service hallway by the bathrooms, didn't look back. I could have left, could have waited for the bus like a normal kid, but my feet moved on their own. The hallway lights flickered as I followed him past the staff doors, past the old mall office nobody used anymore. He stopped by a metal door I'd never noticed before. Rust ate half the handle. He pushed it open with one furry paw. The smell hit me first. Sweet rot, like Easter candy left in a damp basement. Inside was a room no bigger than a broom closet. Shelves lined with old Mascot heads. Bears, tigers, all with the same mesh eyes that never looked quite right. And in the middle, a plastic kiddie chair, the kind they use for more Easter photos. On it sat something small, wrapped in a cheap blanket. A child's shoe stuck out, pink with sparkles. Benny Bunny turned to me. He raised one paw to his face and tugged at the seam behind his ear. I thought he'd take the head off, but instead he peeled it back, fur ripping from skin like wet paper. No man's face underneath, just layers of stitched flesh, gummy seams crawling with black mold. The giggle came again, not from his mouth, but from the shoe on the chair. I saw it twitch, like something inside was still breathing. I stumbled back. Benny lurched forward, foam paws scraping the concrete, mouth splitting wider, showing more seams pulling apart. He hissed one word, through teeth that weren't teeth, just white lumps of chewing gum stuck into rotted gums. Trade. I ran. Don't remember how I got back to the bus stop. Don't remember how I got home. They said the shoe belonged to a kid who'd vanished that week. Last seen near the food court when Mum turned her back. They never found the kid. Never asked about the bunny suit. I quit Jolly Burger the next day. Willow Creek Mall shut down the next year, blamed on mold and rats. Sometimes I see Benny in the cracked windows when I drive past the ruins, still waving, still waiting. Next Easter, if you see a bunny mascot in your mall, don't look too close at the eyes, and if he waves at you, don't follow. When I was a kid, I loved staying up past bedtime to watch the old horror block on Channel 17. They called it Midnight Mayhem. Low-budget, black and white monster flicks. Cheap vampire reruns. Cheesy werewolf howls piped through a speaker that buzzed like a dying fly. But the real star wasn't the movies. It was the host, the Midnight Ghoul. He wasn't a real person. Not exactly. Just a guy in a rubber mask and a shabby tux, with fake rubber claws and a top hat 2 sizes too big. He'd shamble on screen between flicks, crack corny graveyard jokes, and pull prizes out of a cheap coffin prop for the night's lucky caller. He felt like my friend when my parents fought downstairs, my secret monster buddy, who'd keep me company long after they'd gone to bed angry. Years later, I'd learn his real name, Eddie Collins, a washed-up radio DJ with a drinking problem, hired for cheap because he'd work midnight 2, 3 for a couple bucks and leftover pizza from the studio vending machine. By the time I turned 21, Channel 17 was dying, swallowed up by cable and infomercials. The Midnight Ghoul vanished one week like he'd never existed, but I never forgot him. When I landed my first real job, a late-night floor manager for a tiny local station scraping by on reruns and syndicated trash, I thought about the Ghoul every night. I found out pretty fast that Channel 17 still used the same building. New owners, new paint, same ancient studio lights and stale coffee smell. The old horror block set was still there too, behind a locked door, buried under tarps and dust. Nobody used it anymore. One Friday, around 3 a.m., I got curious, or maybe just lonely enough to dig through the past. I found the key in a junk drawer behind the snack machine. Inside, the old set looked like a rotting tomb. Cardboard gravestones, foam bats drooping from fishing wire. The coffin prop half cracked open with packing peanuts spilling out like stale guts. And in the corner, hanging from a rusted coat rack, the Ghoul's costume. The tux, the rubber claws, and the mask. It looked worse than I remembered. The rubber cracked and yellowed. The eye holes stretched wider than any human face should need. But when I held it up to the single bulb overhead, I swear I saw something move in the shadows behind the mesh eyes. I didn't tell my boss, didn't tell anyone. I brought it home instead. Stupid nostalgia, I guess. I propped it on the back of my couch, grinning at me while I microwaved ramen and half-watched old horror flicks I pirated off dusty VHS tapes. The first night, I thought I dreamed it. A giggle from the living room, not a child's giggle. Deeper, wet, bubbling like bad plumbing. The second night, my TV turned on by itself. Static hissed under the Ghoul's mask, sitting perfectly still on the couch like he was waiting for his cue. I told myself it was stress, overwork, too much caffeine. The third night, the mask was on my bed when I woke up. My TV buzzed from the living room, stuck on the Channel 17 logo. A signal that hadn't aired since I was 12. I threw the mask in the trash behind my building. Didn't sleep that night, but by sunrise I convinced myself it was over. When I came home the next night, the mask was back, sitting on my TV stand, the eye holes wider. The rubber grin stretched open enough to show black wire teeth inside. My apartment smelled like stale popcorn and moldy carpet, just like the old studio. I tried burning it, tossed it in a metal trash bin behind the building, lit it up with lighter fluid and a match. I swear it screamed. A wet hiss, the rubber bubbling like skin on a stove. But when the flames died, the mask was still there. Blacker, warped, but whole. I left it there, drove to my mom's house 2 towns over, slept on her couch like I was 12 again. She didn't ask why, just left me an old blanket that smelled like dryer sheets and cigarettes. When I woke up, the mask was on her TV, grinning at me through the static. I quit the studio the next day. Told my boss I was sick. Told myself I'd move, start over, leave the ghoul behind. But I couldn't stop seeing him. Reflections in car windows, dark shapes behind my shower curtain, grainy figures on dead channels when I flicked through static at 2 a.m. One night my phone buzzed, unknown number. When I picked up, all I heard was static. Then that same wet giggle, and behind it, a voice I hadn't heard since I was a kid. "Don't touch that dial, kiddies." I smashed the phone. Didn't matter. Every TV I passed flickered to static when I walked by. Shop windows, bar screens, even my phone screen when it rebooted. The ghoul was everywhere now. And so was I the last time I saw my reflection. I was in a diner bathroom, cheap, flickering, fluorescent overhead. I splashed cold water on my face, hoping I'd see myself again. Just me, tired, broke, alone. But my reflection didn't move with me. It grinned. Rubber skin, wire teeth, black eyes too wide. It reached up and pulled my face off like a mask. I don't know where I am now. Maybe still in that bathroom. Maybe buried under the old Channel 17 set, waiting for the next lonely kid to stay up too late. But if you ever see the Midnight Ghoul hosting horror flicks again, late at night, on some dead channel that shouldn't be broadcasting, if you hear him giggle, if he calls your name through the static, don't adjust your set. Don't touch that dial. And whatever you do, don't look behind the mask. I used to love sweet-toothed Tommy. Every kid in my town did. He was the grinning mascot of Sugar Shack, a cramped candy shop on Main Street with sticky floors, rainbow jars stacked to the ceiling, and the stale smell of syrup that clung to your clothes long after you left. Tommy was everywhere. On the paper bags, the faded posters in the window, the cheap balloon animals they handed out at the annual fall fair. A big-headed cartoon boy in overalls and a pinwheel hat, flashing a bright white smile with way too many teeth. But the real draw was the costume. A towering Mascot suit the shop trotted out every Saturday. Some poor teenager sweating inside layers of matted fur and a giant foam head, waving at kids, passing out free suckers with those soft white gloves. I used to beg my mum to take me every weekend. ID wait in line just for Tommy's hug, his squeaky voice wishing me sweet dreams when I left. I didn't know then what the dreams would cost me. The first time I felt something was wrong, I was 7. ID lost my first tooth, yanked it out in the bathroom with a trembling hand and too much toilet paper. That night, I tucked it under my pillow, picturing the shiny coin the Tooth Fairy would leave behind. But when I woke up, the coin was there, and so was something else. A wrapper, red and yellow stripes, sticky at the edges. Sugar Shack stamped across the middle in faded ink. Inside was a single candy, a chalky, crumbly jawbreaker the size of a shooter marble. I popped it in my mouth before my mom woke up. It tasted like powdered sugar and something bitter underneath, coppery, like I'd bitten my lip. I didn't think much of it, just free candy, right? But the next time I lost a tooth, the same thing happened. A wrapper under my pillow, tucked next to the coin. The same jawbreaker, the same taste. It happened every time. I stopped caring when I hit 13. Too old for fairy tales. Too old for sticky floor candy shops and men in cheap costumes. Or so I told myself. But sometimes I'd catch Tommy in the corner of my eye when I passed Sugar Shack on my bike, waving from the doorway, head tilted, just a little too far. Foam jaw frozen in that big, hungry grin. I left town at 18. College, a couple states away. I didn't go back, didn't plan to. But 3 months ago, I got the call. My mom's house, the house I grew up in, had been condemned. Black mold, leaky pipes, floors sinking into the foundation. I came back to help her pack. I slept in my childhood bedroom for the first time in a decade. Same creaky bed, same cracked window, same yellowed posters peeling off the walls. The first night, I woke up to a faint crinkle under my head. I reached under the pillow, half asleep, and my fingers closed on waxy paper, red and yellow stripes. A jawbreaker sat in my palm, cracked right down the middle. Inside, something black and grainy rattled like tiny pebbles. I spat on my hand to wipe it off. My tongue brushed against something sharp. I ran to the bathroom mirror, pulled my lip back. A tooth was missing, back molar, gone, smooth and raw where it should have been. I didn't remember it coming loose, didn't remember any pain, but I remembered Tommy's voice in my dreams. Sweet dreams, sweet teeth. The next night, it happened again. Another candy under my pillow, another missing tooth. Front left incisor this time. I booked a motel the next morning. Mum thought I was overreacting, blamed the stress, told me to see a dentist. But dentists can't fix what follows you. At the motel, I couldn't sleep. I barricaded the door with a chair, left the bathroom light on, checked my teeth in the mirror every hour. At 3 a.m., the power went out. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling every throb in my jaw. Then I heard it, soft squeaking, like shoes on tile. Slow, dragging steps outside the door. Something scraped the wood. A tiny, polite knock. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move, barely breathed. The knock came again. Then a voice, high and cheerful, muffled through layers of cheap foam. Open up, sweet tooth. I know you're in there. The door handle rattled. The chair wedged under it squealed on the linoleum. Then silence. I counted to 100. Nothing. When I finally cracked the door, the hallway was empty, except for a single jawbreaker, cracked open, sticky with something red at the center. I tried to run, packed my bag, drove through the night, hit the interstate with no plan, no map, just distance. But distance means nothing when the mask wants you. At a rest stop 2 states away, I dozed off in the driver's seat. When I woke up, my mouth felt full, swollen and raw. I stumbled to the restroom mirror under flickering yellow lights. More teeth gone, the gaps black and wet. My tongue brushed something sharp, not enamel, but tiny white candies packed into the sockets. I felt him behind me before I saw him, the reflection shifting in the mirror-s cracked glass. Sweet Tooth Tommy, 7 feet tall in his faded overalls, foam head cocked sideways. The pinwheel on top spun slowly in the stale bathroom breeze. His gloves were gone. His hands were thin, grey, claws where fingers should be, tips black with something sticky. He lifted one clawed finger to the mouth slit, hushed me. She, sweet dreams. He lunged. I woke up hours later, slumped against the stall door. My mouth ached so bad I thought I'd swallowed my own tongue. I spit on my palm, pink froth and tiny white lumps. I looked closer, jawbreakers, tiny ones, round and hard, tinged with blood. My teeth were gone, all of them, in their place, candy, packed tight in my gums. I've been running ever since. Truck stops, motels, abandoned rest areas, where nobody asks why your mouth stays shut when you order coffee through clenched lips. But I know he's close. I see him in the window reflections at gas stations. That foam grin, that spinning pinwheel hat. I feel my jaw cracking every time I try to speak. And every morning, under whatever dirty pillow I collapse on, I find a wrapper, red and yellow stripes, Sugar Shack. So here's my warning, my last story. If you ever see Sweet Tooth Tommy, if he waves at your kid from the candy shop doorway, keep walking. Don't let him hug you. Don't let him whisper sweet dreams. And when you feel your tooth loosen in the middle of the night, pray you wake up with something left to smile.